You know, guys, if there's anything I've learned from Drag Me to Hell, it's that you never, ever fuck with gypsies. Why has no one picked up on that yet? The Cursed. So The Curse was written and directed by Sean Ellis and takes place in late 19th century France and follows the character of John McBride. He's a pathologist who comes to a small countryside town only to discover a supernatural threat amongst the townspeople. Now he and a band of the townspeople must come together and put an end to the threat before it consumes them all. Quite literally, in fact. Going into The Cursed, guys, I didn't really have any expectations. I basically went in with the thought process that this was going to be another run-of-the-mill werewolf flick that repeats the same things that other werewolf movies do. And it kind of does that, but it also tries a lot of new things too, and I gotta give it mad props for that. I feel like the new things that they tried in this movie was at least enough to keep me invested and entertained. And the origin of the curse and how it works is definitely the driving force of this movie. Because a lot of why the events in this movie unfold is kind of cloaked in mystery at the beginning. They don't come right out and tell you exactly what is happening. They kind of leave it open to you to kind of figure out on your own. And that's kind of where the bulk of the fun of this movie is. Like, you're watching all these really crazy scenes with this really fucked up imagery, and at the same time, you're just kind of putting together a puzzle in your head. And because of that, I was genuinely confused for like the first half of this movie. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And when you finally figure out what exactly is happening and why, it just adds more gravity and depth to the film. And this movie definitely earns its R rating too. There is a lot of shit in this movie that'll make you cringe and just squirm in disgust. It is bloody, it is gory, and it is not for your kids. Little public service announcement right here, but grown-ups, quit taking your kids to see these violent, fucked up movies. Not only are you scarring them for life because of all the fucked up shit that's happening, you're taking me out of the movie because their little asses can't shut the fuck up. Just thought I'd throw that in there, you know, little public service announcement from your friend Nathan Triner. Let's talk about the cast a little bit, because I really don't know much about any of the actors in this movie. Like, a lot of them I don't even recognize. I mean, for the most part, everybody does a pretty fine job, but, you know, the one I was only really able to, you know, grasp was, you know, John McBride's character. They all look and seem like people that live in a gothic, depressing French countryside town. Most of the characters have major roles in the movie, and then others are just basically just meat for the grinder. The tone and atmosphere in this movie is also really freaky at times. Like, it's a horror movie, so tone and atmosphere is either going to make the movie or it's going to break it down really badly. And because the atmosphere and the tone is so dark and gritty and gothic, you're pretty much on the edge of your seat the entire time, wondering what's going to happen next. Part of it comes from the mystery surrounding the events of the film and how those events are shaping and changing the characters as the story progresses. Because throughout the film, people are dying or either changing into werewolves themselves. And it's just like a car crash in slow motion, because they don't want to be werewolves, but if you know anything about werewolf lore, if you get bit, you're pretty much fucked at that point. So when someone does get bit and the transformation starts, you feel very bad for the character that it's happening to. It's very tragic. And everyone that was once a family member or a friend is all of a sudden in danger, and they can't do anything to stop themselves from tearing them apart. It's kind of sad, honestly, and it just adds to the depressing, dark tone of the movie. Like I said at the beginning of this review, this movie kind of reminded me of Drag Me to Hell in a way. It's very similar to that movie in a way that it involves gypsies, and it's kind of a revenge story. Because of the selfish actions of one person, the land that everyone in this movie lives on is cursed. You know, hence the title of the movie, and now they're all going to suffer because of what this one person did. I won't give away exactly what happens that triggers this curse, because when it happens in the movie, it's really fucked up. And if you're seriously thinking about checking out this movie, I'll leave that little piece of mystery for y'all to see on your own. Bottom line, karma is a bitch. Let's just say that. And at times the movie feels like an art film in the way it's shot, or the way it's lit, or just the outrageous long takes that the director of this movie likes to do on occasion. You know, it's got this use of dark colors like black, grays, and browns, and, you know, it plays with shadow effects a bit, so, you know, it just kind of, like I said before, adds on to the tone of the movie and makes it even more depressing. And this is a depressing fucking film. Like, I don't think I've been this depressed watching a horror film in a long time, but it's a good kind of depressed rather than a really bad depressed. And unfortunately, that's kind of where all my praise ends. While I did enjoy the movie, it just felt a lot longer than it probably should have been. This movie is just under 2 hours, and for whatever reason, at some points, it feels longer than 2 hours. At times, it felt like the movie just had a fourth act because of how long it kept going. And I get that part of it is just you trying to establish the characters and tell this story that you really want to tell, but some of the scenes in the movie just kind of felt a little out of place and not needed because of the runtime. Also, the design of the werewolves in this movie is just very strange in my opinion. They kind of remind me of the werewolves from that movie Ginger Snaps, but just really bad CG versions of them. You know, I feel like werewolf movies in the past have done werewolf effects a lot better, especially with movies like The Wolfman and An American Werewolf in London, because those movies used practical effects for transformations and creature effects. So as a result, the creature felt more lively, it felt more threatening, and sometimes it felt a little more animalistic. So in a way, I kind of felt like they could have done the werewolves a little more justice by having them be practical instead of CGI. Now, I do get that this movie had a very limited budget in terms of things they could do, so I do understand why they went with the CGI, approach, but I still kind of would have liked to have seen what these werewolves looked like with practical effects. To me, it's just very unimpactful because of the way they look and, the way they were put in there. And really, guys, that's all I really got to say about my gripes in terms of The Cursed. Also, that autopsy scene? Fucking Christ. Guys, The Cursed was a cool, unique twist on traditional werewolf lore. It managed to set itself apart from movies like The Wolfman and An American Werewolf in London, and tried to tell a story that was kind of more grounded and didn't feel like traditional, werewolf films. Is it a perfect movie? Hell no. Is it a fun, suspenseful, atmospheric drama? Yes. It really didn't need to be 2 hours long, but I still enjoyed the shit out of it. At least when the werewolves weren't on full display. Christ, that CGI was bad. I'll just go ahead and say it, guys. The Cursed is probably better as a Redbox rental. Alright, thank you guys so much for joining me on my review for The Cursed. I know it sounded like I got a little hostile there towards the end, but I had just a few problems with the movie that really affected my rating. I really wish I could give this movie a higher score, but I just can't ignore the problems with it. That is it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're new. And as always, this is Nathan Triner. I'm saying peace, and I'll see you guys next time for more Fire Forged movie reviews. Peace out, everybody.